Hello and welcome to this video guide. I am Masood Hamada, and today we will be doing another incredible Azure lab. So today's lab is going to be Loot Exchange, Teams, and SharePoint with GraphRunner. Ooh, this is going to be so sweet because GraphRunner is such an incredible tool, and I'm going to show you multiple ways to use it, which is going to be incredible. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, right off the bat, we are dealing with an assumed breach. So I'm going to grab these credentials and plug them into my virtual machine. I am using Pwned Cloud OS. So if you're not familiar, I truly urge you to try it out for yourself because it's an amazing cloud pen testing virtual machine. So let's go ahead and log in here. All right, we are in. And we are Clara Miller. Looks like, what's our role here? Let's check out what our role is. By the way, these are my notes here. If you would like my notes, please comment below, and I will be sure to send you a link. And I choose this current login info. Get some info about our compromised user. Clara Miller. Doesn't seem like we have that much information. No phone number, office location, preferred language. We don't really have much. Not even a job title. So, well, since we're signed in, let's go ahead and see if we have access to any resources. Ooh. An Azure SQL server. So this is going to be the type of the resource right here. If you're not familiar, let me go ahead and go through this ID with you. So the first thing we're going to see is a subscription ID. Following that, going to be the resource group, it's content static 2. And this is the format where if you're kind of just starting out, let me go ahead and explain the format to you within the resource IDs. There's going to be the name, which is going to be like the variable, and then the value of that variable is going to come right after it. So resource group is content static ID. And then providers, which means the type of resource or the service itself, is going to be Microsoft SQL. So we're dealing with a Azure SQL server here. And the server itself is going to be called MBT Finance. And then the database, as this is a database that we have access to, is called subscribers. So it looks like we have other Microsoft SQL resources that we have access to here. Let's go ahead and organize them all into one variable because we need to check the permissions that we have over these resources. First, we'll save the subscription ID. And then we'll save the resources IDs. Now, as you can see, I saved all of the IDs into one location because we're going to iterate through them and see which permissions we have, the granular permissions, the specific things that we can do to each one of these resources. Let's see what we have over the master database. Okay, looks like our permissions here. Within actions, we have the ability to read the database. However, we don't have any data actions. So let's actually see what we have access over the entire server. Okay, again, we have read as an action, but we don't actually have any data actions. Interesting. So anyways, it's going to be required for us to have an authentication string in order to authenticate to this SQL server. So we'll keep it in mind for now. And once we find any credentials, then maybe we can come back to this SQL server and authenticate to it. So since this lab is titled, or at least it has in the title, GraphRunner, then I'm pretty sure we should be enumerating the graph. So let's go ahead and do that now. Now, I do have Bloodhound running up here. However, this user does not seem to have anything special within the outbound object control or the roles. The only role it has is the default directory reader role. So there's nothing too interesting to be found here on the Bloodhound side of things. But yeah, like we said, GraphRunner is right there in the title. So maybe if we use GraphRunner, we will be successful in this lab. Let's go ahead and open up a new tab and use GraphRunner. I'm going to go into my PowerShell. Go to my GraphRunner notes. And the first thing we want to do is import the GraphRunner module. Amazing, so we got that on deck. Now let's get the graph token. Going to be using a device code authentication flow. Amazing, we are now officially signed in. So if we go to tokens, and we go to this variable here, which it saved the token for, or within, and we actually have this beautiful graph token here now for us to use. Now, before we delve into the CLI, I want to show you an amazing little feature that GraphRunner has. So let me go ahead and start up the GraphRunner GUI. So this is actually a GUI written in HTML, and how we use it is we simply put in the Graph API token in here. And now we're going to be able to have a GUI method of enumerating the entire Graph API. Now, before we continue, I just want to say that it would really help a lot if you enjoyed this video for you to like, subscribe, or comment what you'd like to see in the future, because it gives us an idea of what you like to see and how you like to view your video guides. Let's get back right into it. So, since we're here, let's go ahead and start enumerating. You can list the users. List the users and the groups. Doesn't seem to be working too well today. Let's see if we can fetch emails. Amazing, we got one email from Sam Olson. Hey Clara, hope you're doing well. Yeah, Claire is doing well, except she's just getting hacked. Doesn't seem to be anything confidential in here. See if we can fetch the team chats. Team chat viewer. Okay, we got two channels in the Teams chat. Finance and general. OneDrive files. Apps and attachments. Okay. We have confidential XLSX. Well, that's interesting. We also have a SharePoint root drive, which might have some confidential data, such as break glass text file over here and passwords. I wonder what juicy credentials that could have. Now, when downloading these files off this GUI, there's actually a bit of a problem with the formatting. So instead of downloading them here, I'm going to download them through the CLI enumeration. So if we go back to the CLI, go over here to our PowerShell. And firstly, I'm going to search for passwords in the SharePoint and the OneDrive. And we can do this through this command. As you can see, invoke -search SharePoint and OneDrive, specifying the token that we saved through our authentication, and then using the search term flag to specify that we're looking for anything password related. Looks like we got 2 hits over here. Let's download both of these. All right, we got both of them. Let's check out finance logins. Oh, the finance database that we are aware of seems to have some credentials. Is right here. Okay, well, that might be useful. Service account software. Let's see if we can access this. Okay, so this is actually megabigtech.local. And so I'm thinking if we happen to compromise a virtual machine that has access to the internal network, then we might be able to pivot, possibly create an HTTPS tunnel, and then maybe get access to this internal web application. As you probably already know, internal web applications seem to be a lot more vulnerable than the publicly accessible ones of a company. Payroll, corp.net. See if maybe we can have access to this. Nope. Megabank. Nope. And then another internal web application. So we'll take note of this, and we'll keep this just in case we can maybe even use some password reuse attacks or keep these credentials for the future. We'll keep them nice and dandy over here. see what the other file has. Okay, so looks like we have some credentials. Let's go ahead and check these credentials. Oh, unfortunate, it doesn't work. All right, well, we'll keep these credentials here as well. We have a load of credentials now for us to possibly commit some password reuse attacks or gain access to future resources that we find. So let's keep both of these files for later. All right, let's see now what else we can do with GraphRunner. So instead of searching for passwords, let's search for bonus. Okay, it looks like we got a hit. We got something called confidential, which is also what we found in the GUI. So let's now download this. And see what is what's good here in this confidential file. All right, so it's actually password protected, so we'll keep this for later just in case we find the password for it. See what else we can search for passwords in the Teams messages and the Teams chats using invoke search Teams. So this is another handy dandy way to utilize GraphRunner. Let's go ahead and check it out, see if we get any hits. Oh, wrong tab. Okay. Call IT to reset my password. Call IT to reset my password. So looks like Clara Miller is sending multiple emails asking for a password reset. And we also have this password openme123. Now there is one thing that we wanted to open previously, so let's see if this was the password for that. Yeah, that's the correct password. Now, this is an interesting file. However, there doesn't seem to be anything confidential in here. So, yeah, nothing over here. So we'll go ahead and move forth with the lab. You could, of course, keep these usernames and commit some password spraying attacks, or keep them for, trying to brute force any applications that you find throughout your journey here in this mega big tech environment. It is a very large environment, and I urge you to explore and experiment. But for now, we'll close that. All right, let's continue enumerating with GraphRunner. Now we can also search the mailbox using invoke search mailbox. And we can look for the search term password as we did for the previous commands. Over here to our PowerShell. Okay, looks like we got one hit. Let's go ahead and download this. All right, we got an error. I mean, there is a lot of data already in the preview, so this is quite juicy right here. We have in the preview, we have login below with the username. So it looks like maybe she got a password reset as she was trying to request. So the username right here, finance reports, password, reporting 123, and server. Perhaps regarding the Azure SQL server, we have just found credentials. The finance database. Okay, so we can actually utilize all of this information in order to connect to this database if it's publicly accessible. Let's go ahead and try. So I just ran these commands to get a connection going. And basically all we're doing is we're going to create a new object, and that's going to be the SQL connection for us. Specify the password, specify the connection string. Now the format of the connection string is going to be like this. It's static, and this is the format. So you start with the server, and then you include the database, and then you include the user and the password. And that's how you formulate the connection string. So it's useful for you in the future for when you encounter another SQL service on Azure or in the Azure pen testing labs here on Mega Big Tech. And then I'm going to open the connection. So now, since we are connected, or we're assuming that it worked and we're connected, let's go ahead and access the format or the schema. Let's go ahead and see what the tables are looking like with this query. So after establishing the connection, we set the query to, enumerate the schema and get the tables. And then we ultimately run that in order to find the table name, which is going to be subscribers. Now, if we go back to our resources that we found previously, you can see here that one of the databases that we actually have access to is subscribers. And now we're finally going to be able to open that database and possibly extract the confidential data within it. So we found this table named subscribers. Now let's go ahead and enumerate it. Let's access the rows of this table. Ooh, looks like we have some leaky data. And we got just a bunch of data for us to sell on the dark web if we have to make some money or even gain some persistence, maybe spray these users, use some social engineering attacks to gain more information from them. Knowing that we have their card number, we could start utilizing their funds, accessing their bank accounts, etc. And lastly but not leastly, we can grab this beautiful flag over here and complete the lab. So let's see if this is the correct flag for this lab. CSRF mismatch. Go ahead and refresh this page. Pretty sure this is it. Yep, congratulations. Really hope you enjoyed this lab guide video. And if you liked, please, again, I urge you to comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know how you like Azure in comparison to GCP. I know Azure and AWS are competing. Azure seems to be on top in terms of the highest enterprise companies. And yeah, let me know how it was. Thank you very much, and see you later.